Hello, greetings and salutations. Welcome back to the BFC, where we go into the trenches of the trading world and do first-hand due diligence. Yes, I know many of you want smaller clips to shows, and I will be doing that more often. There's only so many hours in a day, but we will continue to do the BFC Live every single Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Today we got highlights from our most recent shows featuring David Lee from IVDA, Steve Reinhardt from AITX, Mike Sheik from BIXT, and Mark Walter of IFUS, Impact Fusion International. I am bringing it here, guys. I'm giving it all I got to bring you guys firsthand due diligence and giving you guys an opportunity to ask questions live. All right. And I got to say, I'm really impressed with the price movement of IFUS. The chart looks freaking great. This thing is primed and it's ready to crush 14-year highs, in my opinion. Not financial advice. Now, listen, the professor, he introduced me to IFUS, and he never fails to disappoint when it comes to due diligence, which is why you're going to want to join the Discord, because this man is in there sharing his knowledge, decades of knowledge of trading experience. So get locked in at the $5 a month. What's the $5? It's a cup of coffee. All right. So click the link above and enter promo code SADSACHOLDER. That's SAD. I'm just kidding. That's not the promo. There's no promo code. And I didn't mean to crack any ILIS or CYBL or CGRA jokes. But seriously, no, join the group, because we plan on doing webinars, conference calls, contests, and much, much more. So get locked in at that $5 a month rate. Okay, enough of me rambling. Let's look at some of our most recent clips. Hey, Rob, roll it.
This product can be fed. Cattle eat it. I've got videos all over Twitter that they eat it. And if you're getting number 3 cow pies, which I got a chance to meet that guy last week or this week, Robert Wells, that if you're getting number 3 cow pies, then you're getting between 12 and 15% crude protein. What's the first question a rancher asked me? What's your crude protein? Well, what's the digestive system look like in your cow? I can give you all kinds of protein, but I can tell you, if I look at the back end, you're getting very poor looking number 1 or number 5 cow pies, which tells me you can base it on your own studies, that your cow is not digesting. It's coming out the back end. And what happens when it comes out the back end? It smells. And we talked about that, methane gas. Mm-hmm. And you're not getting the absorption you should. It also helps fight the cow drinking water. Cow doesn't have to drink as much water. And what's happening right now, water is a very precious commodity. They were talking about it like mad at the feeding forum. And when you got ranchers, and especially in Texas, that have to drill 200 feet down further to get to the aquifer to get water. Wow. That's expensive. And so our product takes all of these components, including the bagasse, which is actually the minor part. But let me give you a quick lesson that my scientists gave me on if you take crude protein, or if you take protein and you look at lignin. Lignin is like an atomic bomb of protein, and nobody can unlock it. What is lignin? It's a stiff part of the plant. So if you got bagasse, it's a bamboo, and it's stiff, and it's got lots of lignin, and a lot of the lignin can't be broke down. And so what ends up happening is it sits there, and it sits in the stack and does nothing. So now, if you have good digestion, that's why you're getting number 3 cow pies, then it's digesting the lignin. If it's digesting the lignin, that means when it comes out in the number 3 cow pie, it doesn't furfural, which is what a fly looks for. He can't find it. So what does he do? He goes somewhere else. He goes to a carcass somewhere in the field or something. But so there are no flies. So the benefits keep happening. So you're going to gain weight faster. I mean, I can go to a businessman, and whether he's raising beef or he's manufacturing car parts, he understands his costs. What do I put in? What do I get out?
Hmm.
So if I look at a rancher like I have right now, I've got a good friend of mine that is raising Black Angus. You can see it on Twitter. He's got 100 of them, and he told me, he said, "Look, I think I'm going to get out of the business." And I said, "Why? What's going on?" He says, "I can't make money." He said, "I got to go to Arkansas to get hay, and I can't. I just can't make money. I'm at like 350 a head per day." And I said, "Well, tell you what, let's work on our program and let's see how you do, and let's try to eliminate hay." And he's down to 45 cents per head per day.
Wow.
What businessman doesn't understand that metric? You could be the dumbest guy in the world. I understand the difference between 350 and 45 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go to a cattleman and say, "I'll give you all these natural things that are something that you don't have to go to the FDA and get approved, or the USDA, and I can eliminate hay." Look at their face. I mean, first of all, they usually don't believe you. So, I have to say, okay, you can go to the Deer Run Ranch. You can see that there. Or you can go to other customers that we have that don't use hay.
Hmm.
And hay's not going to get easy to get. I mean, it's going to get harder to get. It's going to get more expensive. And so I think that answered your question, but I
Yeah.
hope it did.
Yeah, it does. And you mentioned Deer Run Ranch. And so we have another guest with us today, Mr. Robert Schmidt of Deer Run Ranch, one of your customers. Rob, let's bring him in.
Hello.
Hello, Robert Schmidt. Welcome to Buffalo Fireside Chats. How are you doing?
Great. You're doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Fantastic here as well. Great to have you on. So the stage is yours. Tell us a little bit about your experience with SGP and working with Mark, and talk about your farm. Talk about how your cattle have responded.
Yeah, we have a ranch in East Texas. It's not as big as most of the Texas ranches, but we got like 2,000 acres, and we got close to 300 cows, and we started feeding Bag Ass or Supreme Gold, and I went and bought a mixer so I could mix it real easy, and we have gotten results that's just unbelievable. And every day we finding new things that it does. And one of the things which Mark mentioned is there's no flies, and we spend thousands of dollars every year on fly prevention, and you still can't get rid of them. You go out and you can't even open the doors up to a truck or a car when you go out there because the cows are so bad. But this year there is no flies on the cows at all, and they're so relaxed. And even with the drought going on, which is really severe now, you go out there and they're laying under a shade tree, and we've got tons of pictures of them with no flies. And now something else we've just noticed is that when they're cow patty, usually we have rakes that we put behind tractors, and we rake the cow manure down into the pastures, and then when it rains, it soaks back into the ground, and it's just a cycle. And you recycling the cow manure back in the cows. I mean, it's just a natural thing. You don't even have to do that anymore. The patties just disintegrate. It's crazy. Usually when you rake over them, the patty doesn't break up, and it's yellow up underneath it where the grass has died. Not now. And there's absolutely no smell. There's no methane smell. There's no flies. The list just goes on, and it's simply amazing.
Yeah, I mean, and you're practically shouting from the rooftops that this thing works. Now this product, we were talking backstage earlier, and you have goats too, correct? And like, have you been able to feed this to other animals as well?
Oh yes, yeah. I have goats, and my goats eat it also, and I have the same results from the goats. Again, like you say, I'm shouting from the rooftops because this product is so amazing. It's just I'm just blown away by it every day when I go feed it to them. And I just go by them and there's no flies. And I mean, you can be out in the middle of the pasture where all these hundreds of cows are, and there's cow patties, everywhere, but they're disintegrating, but there's no smell. And that's just unheard of.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And trust me, guys, when I launched this podcast a year and a half ago, this is one thing I never thought I would be talking about, is cow poo. But it's just amazing what you guys have really stumbled upon. Not even you haven't stumbled upon it. I mean, you've researched it. You obviously, I mean, when you're talking, Mark, you're talking about that ancient mastic. When you're talking about literally stuff, biblical remedies, biblical recipes, it's amazing. So Robert, is there anything else that you want to share with any potential farmer that could be watching this, any rancher or anybody that has connectivity to anybody in the cattle industry? What would be the one thing that you want to pass on to them?
They should really try it. And I tell all the farmers and ranchers all the time, I said, don't take my word for it. Get some, try it, and you will be just blown away by the results. And it can replace your hay. You'll just be blown away. I mean, we even have chickens that go around and eat from where the goats and the cows are. And when the chickens eat it, the leftovers, the yolk, when you get an egg, it's just real bright yellow. And that blows me away too. We just keep finding out more and more things that's so great about this product. And all we ask and like Mark said, we're their aunt hollering up at everybody going, hey, we have the solution. We have it. Everything that's going wrong with the methane gas, no hay, it's in the flies. We have all the answers. We can fix all the problems. We just need to be heard.
Really remarkable. And I could say right now, that is Deer Run Ranch for the win, obviously. And so congratulations, at taking that chance and doing, having great success. And I wish you and your farm and your family all the success. And I appreciate you coming on the show and to do this testimonial for Mark and those at Impact. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Welcome back anytime. All right. So let's get to some questions from the audience. All right. So let's just bring these up. Doc P. And I actually was going to bring up the Nebraska trip, but hey, let's jump ahead. What was accomplished? Promising contacts with potential customers, USDA, universities, marketing opportunities, networking, feed market data collected, reception to IFUS Supreme Gold. So fill us in on this trip that you just had in Nebraska, sir.
Good question. Well, number one, what I wanted to evaluate when I went there is if I take a 10,000 foot view of our product line and I look at the industry that we're trying to go after, am I there? Am I missing something? And so I got a chance to meet Robert Wells, which is part of the Nobel Research Institute, and he's the guy that came up with the scoring system of manure. So Robert and I have a thing when he calls up. He says, "How you doing?" I said, "I'm a number 3 today," and his scoring process is phenomenal. So again, I'll get to my point here in a minute. Then I got to a guy named Jesse Fulton, and he is a research scientist. And then I got to meet a guy that you get over to this page here, and I can tell you, it's actually she, Lily Edwards from Colorado State University, and AJ Tardoff at Kansas City University. These are all the movers and shakers that make changes in the industry. So their jobs are to look at every aspect of what a cow goes through when it's grown, when it's raised, and then taken to the slaughterhouse. They look at the time that it spends in a truck at every phase. They look at everything that would stress out a cow. And so I look at this and say, okay, are we okay? Are we hitting the right spots? So when I go backwards to the people I just talked about, the technology is already out there. I don't have to go spend millions of dollars to validate that a number 3 cow pie is what you want to go after. And then if you're at a number 3 cow pie, you've got 12 to 15% crude protein. And so I don't have to do those tests. And they're already there. So if I go back to Jesse Fulton, there's all kinds of tests that he does that he has performed that go along with everything that we've talked about here, right? Not to be redundant. Lily Edwards, Colorado State University, same thing. So one of the first things I told Rhonda to do is to get a hold of these people and get me a meeting with them. Now we've talked to guys like Robert Wells, our scientist, has talked to him, and but we want an implementation conference with them. I want, I've got this product that does what I say it can do. There is no lie. This is what it does. So how do we get that implemented in this whole program that you guys presented, meaning the cattle feed industry presented, that reduces stress to the cow in the whole process? And it doesn't matter what your business model is. For instance, we've come up with a thing that we'll be releasing here pretty quick, because there's a lot of people that want to help us, but there are every rancher you go to has a different or sometimes similar business model. Like, for instance, there's one guy that has two ranches that all he does is raise calves and sell them. And so we can help him not only with the mama cow, because your milk sack, and it's one thing that Robert and I have been talking a lot about, is that whatever milk your cow is creating for the baby cow, the calf, it will be twice as big. Wow. Immediately.
Wow.
And so what better thing than, we were talking about a businessman understanding input and output. If I know I got an asset called this cow, and I don't have to do anything different, but just feed them something that costs less than what he's feeding them now, and I can produce twice the milk, who wouldn't do that? I don't care what kind of machine you got. If I had a lathe and I could produce twice as much with the same labor, I would do that in a heartbeat. And so from the milk standpoint, it's not only good colostrum, and that is something that was phenomenal to us, but we've given it to little ranches that have come over and borrowed some from Robert's ranch or from our plant, and within a week they're saying that the bag of milk is twice as big.
Wow.
So if you got a dairy and you've got, I'll just use a number, 100 cows, and those cows can now produce twice the milk, what would you do?
It's crazy.
So here I am, this little ant yelling up to the human. I got the answer, and just give me a chance. And we do get chances, and I get a lot of people that, remember we talked about earlier that when there is desperation, there is change.
You did mention health. Talk a little bit, and I know and by the way, I know you're very excited about this, and we had a great conversation last time about IVDA care. Talk about IVDA care, and this is a very positive thing, and that is data driven, that could monitor and help many people. So talk a little bit about that.
Sure. IVDA care, Eric, as I don't know what I shared last time, but I don't know where our announcements were, but we were awarded as a subcontractor to a general, Valor Health, in a Veteran Affairs $1.032 billion contract. And part of that was to address and fulfill remote care solutions, right? And what is IVDA doing with IVDA care? We are tending to senior veterans These are living by themselves, whether at an assisted or a traditional home. And IVDA Care right now is understanding living patterns. No cameras involved, guys. So if you think there's no cameras involved, this is a true IoT. Traditional sensors from doors, windows, to motion, to refrigerator, to humidity, to temperature, vibration. And what it is that it's monitoring the trends and movement over time and giving these patterns. The AI is now built with a model that instead of just alerting on abnormal triggers, here's what IVDA AI in a nutshell is doing. George, your mom or grandma or somebody you're taking care of them, but you're in California, they're in Florida. Here's an alert that you'll receive from IVDA AI. At 9:30 a.m., ding, mom is doing well. Got up, used the restroom, looked like she got a drink, and she's sitting down right now in the living room. Normal routine. Not because mom triggered something, not because mom moved something, not because mom opened the fridge. Who cares? Why are you going to be worried every single time something moves? AI in the background makes sense of the patterns over time. And here's the cool thing. IVDA AI now is detecting based on patterns. We are assisting senior veterans to detect falls. And that's one of the biggest issues across our country, whether you're a senior veteran or not. When you're just frail, fall injuries, and I'm only learning getting into the industry and serving it, it's pretty dramatic, you know? So that's where we're taking the technology and understanding the health based on patterns over time. But fall detection, guys, is where the senior veterans are deploying the tech right now, because it's been a problem.
Yeah, and congratulations on that contract and getting things done. And I hope it continues to go well for you. And I can't wait to hear more about it. You've made the statement, blue light systems are dead, essentially, and they're moving out. You know, so if you could pick one, let's go like this route. If you could pick one asset your company has, one IP, one thing that you had to write on it, that's going to be the thing that I'm going to put everything into. And that's not well, it's not that it's a bad question. It's an unrealistic question, but if you had to pick that one thing, what would it be that you would put everything into it if you had to at this moment?
Yeah. If there's one thing that I would say RAD is known for, right, in the industry, I would say that it's rocking the boat. It's creating disruption. It's asking difficult questions. It's challenging security directors to be better. It's challenging corporate P&L leaders to save money. I think that over the decades, the security industry has gotten entrenched in being unassailable in many cases within corporations. And I think that we've played a large role in breaking down that barrier and giving security directors the seat at the C table and giving them tools in order to bring real solutions to improve their enterprise organizations that they're part of. And I think that those elements that I just discussed really manifested and hit home when I was elected to the board of directors for Security Institute Association, TSIA, which is, you know, one of the top organizations that run security in North America for sure, if not the best organization in my opinion. So, yeah, I think that's what we're doing. We're changing. It's freaking hard. It's glorious when we have a win. It's glorious when we do great things, and it's a grind. And I love it, and I think our team does as well.
That's great, David. Talk a little bit about what IVDA is bringing to the AI world. Go for it, man.
I think we're bringing real humans into the AI world. Let me try to explain that. That was just a emotion talk there. But guys, IVDA prides ourselves into bringing sophisticated technology down into accessible means for the everyday person to understand. We pride ourselves in giving technology and putting it into the hands of a true operator, a store owner, a homeowner, because one can speak smart city and government all day long, which I'm fully accessible and engaging in all of that. But IVDA's future is not going to be continuing just we're doing awesome government. That's always going to be around. So hint for our shareholders, always going to be around. Easy stuff, to be frank with you. That's scalable growth. But you know what's exciting? You're going to see IVDA more hitting grassroots. It's one thing to talk AI at such a level that if my wife can't understand, oh, okay, great, he's just doing something in AI. I don't like that. I want my aunties, my dad, everybody to know what exactly I'm doing. So we're bringing the technology down, touchable, feelable, usable at the consumer-centric level. That's our goal. It's one thing to go highly sophisticated and advanced offerings of solutions, but it's going to get a lot of fun. I share the passion that Steve shares, but I think I'm going to add one more word for us to think about this. It's fun, man. It's beyond passion. It's a lot of fun in here, because when you see right before your eyes what the AI just learned and do it again, and then provide you data you didn't even ask, man, we're all like, what? You know, we're going around here in our own office teaching the AI. And what am I teaching them? Practical stuff that a deli sandwich shop owner use. That's how practical I'm talking about, bringing all this tech and then selling it to the everyday people who watch the news and listen to us, but don't get what the heck's in it for me. So you're going to hear me preach, man. I'm going to put technology where my mouth is. You're going to see it. It's very exciting. It's all awesome what's going on.
And
David,
you can come on the BFC and preach anytime, man.
David, what you've got has so much potential. I'm amazed by it. I'm a huge follower of it. I'm really excited for what you're doing.
We should hook up. I didn't want to use this for a partnership talk, but Steve, we should hook up. Let's apply something.
Well, I know, because the story that I wanted to share was 7-8 years ago when I was first putting this together. I came across IVDA, and it crossed my mind to use IVDA for our analytics. And, you know, for a variety of reasons, we didn't go that route. But yeah, now that we're connected and had a nice chat, there's probably some area for collaboration. And again, let's take it offline. But I love what you're doing.
BFC, corporate matchmaker. There it is.
Hey, David, I did have one other comment from what you were talking about, the Internet of Things, which was the question that was discussed when you got disconnected, Steve. But you were talking about the specifics and how it helps individuals. But one of the other nice things about it is using that same technology. It's going to allow us to tackle a lot of the larger problems like climate change and this and that, because when buildings, which are one of the largest waste of energy that we have, if they know through artificial intelligence to shut off the lights and turn down the heat and open the shades and do these different things, that's going to be just as beneficial as finding out, you know, that grandma's okay or that your house is secure.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that AI controlling energy consumption is huge. I think that AI being tuned, like what I just read a press release from IVDA actually. We're bringing it to EMS systems, which is basically what you're saying, George. So, no, for sure. We don't have the ability to do this. Just like in our world, we don't have an ability for a human security guard to be watching 30,000 cameras at any one time. It's a ridiculous concept. We have to have the AI do it. And it allows life to get better. George, you asked a question earlier. You're like, hey, listen, we all know AI is going to take every job, right? You know, okay. It's going to change a lot of things. What do you do? What do you tell like a millennial or a Gen Z on what to do? And I heard bits and pieces of David's answer before the AI cut me off because it doesn't like me right now. But I would say I would pitch something that I wrote several years ago, which nobody understood at the time, including my own mom, who's usually like, you know, a fan of everything I say. But I wrote an article called People as a Premium. And the basic premise of the article was that you're going to get interactions through AI all the time. That is going to be the norm, except in the premium and ultra premium areas where you're going to have, you know, people interact with you. And the example that I used for this was your Target credit card, if you have one, versus your American Express credit card, if you have one. I have neither. But If you call Target, presumably you got to go through 15, phone menus. Hey, well, it drives you crazy. It's not a premium experience. It's a Target experience. And I'm not bashing Target. Everybody loves Target, and thank God it exists. But you call Amex, and they say, "Hello, Mr. Reinhardt." If I were to call them and I had a card, they'd say, "Hello, Mr. Reinhardt. Are you inquiring about fraud?" They know exactly what's that. It's a premium experience, and so I think humans will continue to be premium experiences. So work that you could do in that space should be pretty safe, in my opinion.
Yeah, no. Now, you guys seriously had recently, like, major news. You filed S1 and you secured 1.7 million in funding. That is big. Now, why is this so significant for BioXyTran? Tell me much about the progress. How much progress can you guys make with that cash? And the shares were raised, if I'm correct, at 15.3 cents. And if you could tell us how long those shares are restricted, and
folks,
for how long.
you dug deep
break
in
down
the filings to get that.
break down for us.
This guy knows how to do due diligence. Yes, we're really happy that this institutional investor came on board. We've been talking to them for a long time, and they really ran us through the due diligence gauntlet. So I'm very happy that they do that, because now they really understand what they're buying. So I have nothing but accolades for Triton. They're our institutional investor. Now, why this is so exciting is because this gives us the runway to basically go forward with our phase 3 in India and basically get to this regulatory endpoint. And when we get to this endpoint, that's where the big R, the revenue, starts to come into stage. That's where we can start doing, or actually we can do licensing deals before that. But we can also do some sort of licensing deals. So that's basically the real advantage of it. It gives us flexibility. So we're really excited to continue to advancing the science, and people are going to be astounded by this, by the science when it comes out.
Okay, and
develop it more.
In regards to the phase 3, you guys feel fairly confident that you are going to pass? Because I know I was reading a statistic that said, there are roughly 33% of phase 3 trials that fail. How confident are you that you guys are going to succeed in this phase 3?
Yeah, your statistics are spot on. And when you get to phase 3, they're higher. So it goes by the level and phase that you're at. So we have 2 peer-reviewed clinical trials with placebo, right? And we had basically p-values less than 0.05 and 0.001. So when you look at those type of statistics, we had, in both of those trials, we had 100% responders rate. So we have 2 clinical trials with 100% responders rate. That's something to talk about. Now, I have a question for you. Maybe I'll stump you. But in the past decade, there's been 10,000 clinical trials, let's say. Now, out of those 10,000 clinical trials, just spitball for me, how many of them do you think got a 100% responders rate?
Out of 10,000?
Out of 10,000.
I'm going to say 0.
150.
Nope. The answer is 2. The answer is 2. The first one was Gilead Sciences back in 2013, and they had the cure. They had the cure for hepatitis C, and with their drug Harvoni. I tweeted this a while ago, but they went up. I think it was 80 billion in valuation after they announced their 100% responders rate. So that was pretty interesting. And then the other company is ours.
Oh, wow. That's
okay.
Unbelievable. See, I thought you were going to be number 3. Wow.
No.
That's still pretty freaking amazing. I mean, 2 out of 10,000. So that
Pretty much, yeah. I mean,
speaks to your confidence, I should say.
Those are round numbers, but they're in the ballpark. Yeah.
And being peer reviewed is huge as well. So
2 peer reviewed, 2.
Yep.
And we have more coming too.
Yeah, that's especially impressive, right? Because I mean, there's actually outright cured hepatitis C. Isn't that correct? So
yeah, they cured it. Yeah,
that's pretty good company to be in.
Yeah, we can't say the C word yet.
Yeah. Well, you know what? And I want to bring something up because you did mention how that sort of backfired. And you actually shared an article with me about you know, what you called a provocative article. And I get it because I read it and I understood the gist of where you're coming from and where a lot of us feel. And I'm going to read a portion of that in a second. But, you know, basically talking about how, you know, Big Pharma looks to treat the symptoms, you know, not necessarily for the cures. And I think that speaks volumes. And one thing that really got me going during reading this article was the section where it says negative perception of Big Pharma, adding more fuel to the negative perception of Big Pharma was the COVID debate on ivermectin as a treatment. This controversy fanned the flames of discontent with the FDA for not allowing its use. While 57% of Americans have heard about ivermectin for the treatment for COVID-19 and may think that it could be effective despite the FDA warning. On September 1st of this year, the appeals court found in favor of doctors that wanted to prescribe ivermectin for their COVID-19 patients and were stymied by the FDA's ivermectin campaign. Now, let me tell you something right now, and this is the God's honest truth. I got COVID bad. Like, I was laid up for 2 weeks solid. I had a fever. Dude, I was laid up hard. Fever, delusional dreams. It was bizarro, man. When I was sweating, it smelled like death. Like, my senses were screwed up, and I didn't want to take anything. I didn't take the jab. I didn't take nothing. So what I did was nothing. I just sat there and got sick, horribly sick for 2 weeks. And then I called my friend who actually offered me ivermectin. And I said, screw it. I go, bring it over. I'll pay you for the 40-minute drive you're going to have to give me gas. I kid you not. I took a double dose, and I stayed regimented with it. I had no fever within 24 hours, and I was back to work 2 days later. I wasn't 100%, but I was salvageable. I was actually freaking nervous. I'm not kidding. I was pretty concerned.
When did you, E-Rock, when did you get that?
That was, oh my gosh, that was 2021. I got it in 21. It was during the winter because I remember
Was it before the Delta variant? Or was it the Delta variant?
It might have been the Delta variant. I don't, dude. It was so long ago. I don't know what variant I had. I have the.
No, I know. That's crazy.
It's crazy. I don't know if it says on there what variant I had, but I'll tell you, like, it just really pissed me off because I got to see sort of the worst of humanity and wrapped up in 2.5 years between shutdowns, school shutdowns, not using common sense when it comes to like how we could truly prevent this, and the money not being allocated appropriately. You know, based on how we were treating each other in and of itself was horrible. And then you have people that and hydrochloroquine. I did that homemade stuff or whatever. I tried that didn't work. I boiled the peels of the grapefruit that they said to do. That didn't work. That didn't do anything. But and I personally think that you have to have a buildup of vitamin C and zinc and all those things in your system prior to getting sick to being less sick, not just doing it when you're sick, because now you're playing catch up and catch up doesn't work. But I mean, I don't know. Like, I was fired up to see all these people being labeled cuckoo when, if I'm correct, didn't ivermectin win a Nobel Peace Prize because they found different uses for it? I might be wrong, but that's what I thought I read. And so why are we shunning stuff that could possibly
river
work?
blindness? Did you know that? It's a river blindness. Yeah. Okay.
Just speaking of that too, though. So, and I'm not sure that this is 100% correct, but very much like protein folding or like bacteriophages, one of the interesting things about your potential technology is that it's like lock and key, correct? It only engages with what it's supposed to engage with, and if it doesn't, because of the folding, it can't actually do anything else. So it is non-toxic in the most literal sense.
Yeah, our target is something called the galectin-3, and when you target the galectin-3, I kid some people. I say there's no good galectin-3 in your body. I mean, that's not entirely true. There's intracellular and extracellular, so inside the cell, outside the cell, and we're mainly dealing with stuff that's outside the cell. It's really not that good, and high serum levels are correlated to really bad outcomes in COVID-19. I mean, there's this one peer-reviewed journal article where it was like, if you had galectin, I'm talking about galectin-9 now, but if you had galectin-9 and it's over a certain threshold of galectin-9 serum in your blood, there's 98% chance you're going to die. That is the best biomarker that you have for, for bad prognosis that there is. So you kind of wonder, okay, that's really nice information. What if we blocked it? We kind of know the answer to that now, but back then no one was listening.
Yeah.
I got one more for you, Rock. I've always been fascinated that within the drug industry, right? I think that the public at large thinks that there's a problem and that pharmaceutical companies go out and try to solve said problem. When in point of fact, they usually have a drug, and then whatever the drug does in the trials, that's what they end up marketing it to. So it'll be interesting to see how your determination actually trying to solve a problem rather than just marketing a pill that makes your toes hairy.
Well, I have an analogy for that. Okay, what we see a lot of drug companies out there doing is what they're doing is they are going after the symptoms. So the symptomology of the disease. They're trying to curb the symptoms of the disease. Okay, we're a little bit different. Call us the dandelion hunters. Okay, the whole idea of the dandelion. So what happened? Pretend dandelion is the disease, right? So what everyone else is doing, and this is what makes us different. Everyone else is ripping the tops off the dandelions. You know what? That's fantastic for drug companies. Why? Because the dandelions come right back up again, and you need the drug to rip it off again, right? But what we are is we're the dandelion hunters. We take it out by the roots. So we yank the disease out by the roots. That's what we're about. And that's what makes us different. And that's why investors, if you're listening to this, that's why you want to support our technology. Are you sick and tired of just treating the symptoms and not getting to the root disease? If you are, continue to buy big pharma stocks. Okay. If you're not, support little pharma.
Now, just could you, it's simply put, like how Baxtran Prolactin M is different from COVID vaccines and other drugs, simply put?
Yeah. What happens is a vaccine is designed to stimulate antibody production. So then when you get infected, you basically have antibodies to neutralize it. And I'm going to explain this like no one has ever explained it to you. Okay. So what COVID is when it comes to a vaccine is you have a fire in you. And that fire is when you get a vaccine, you have an amount of water to douse that fire, right? So what's happening is when you get the vaccine, they don't test to figure out how much water you just got to douse the vaccine. You have a certain amount of water. Your bucket could be this much, or it could be totally full. If it's totally full and you start getting the disease, it's gonna put it out really fast, right? That's what a vaccine does. So it gives you probably a 1 to 3 day head start on the disease. Okay, that's all a vaccine does. All right. Now, an antiviral, what does it do? As soon as you get the disease, it stops it dead in its tracks, like Paxil. It stops it dead in its tracks, right? And doesn't let it get any worse. All right. So going back to the fire, it starves, like the antiviral starves it from the oxygen. It takes the oxygen out, right? The vaccines put water on it, right? And then what the heck do? We don't even let it get started, or once it's started, it stops. It stops from entering the cell. And then what happens is your body's immune system, does mop up work. I mean, that's the idea behind it. is that we prevent the virus from entering the cell.
Okay, that makes, I'm strapping my brain around it right now. That makes complete sense. I'm going back to the space theory. Like I'm don't mind my science. I'm actually trying to think.
I'm trying to give relatable analogies.
And it does. I watched your other podcast.
No one's ever told how to look at vaccines. They give you a little bit. They give you a little bit of protection, right? And then with us, the idea is, we just stop the disease pathogenesis dead in its tracks. I mean, that's what we hope we're doing. And that's why, what was it? I think it was 88% of the people were PCR negative in day 3. That means, they go with the nasal swab, and they're, you're normally considered non-infectious. Now, do you know how the typical person, like a standard risk patient, if you got if you got COVID and you did a nasal swab, well, in about 9 days, you're going to be PCR negative, if with normal immune system, right? And we had 88% PCR negative on day 3 versus 0% in the control group in our phase 2 study. Pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
I have a question. So, and I'm not sure if this is exactly the right way to think about it, but I think it could help. So, being that your drug acts as an inhibitor, which again can prevent the actual disease from even happening, which means the disease can't actually evolve to change to that because you're changing the binding site that it needs to start in the first place. Would you say that is sort of similar, although not the same exactly, as Narcan right now, and how that affects right now? Obviously, that's to stop people from opiate overdoses. But by the Narcan drug itself binding to the site, it makes it impossible for the opioid to actually bind to the site and do what it does. Yours, just instead of doing this against the drug, is doing it against pathogenesis.
Yeah. In other words, we make it impossible. Nothing's impossible, but we make it very difficult for for basically the virus to bind to the cell. Okay. A lot of target, so yeah, I think that's a pretty decent analogy. I'm unfamiliar with that, but I'm just saying the way you explained it makes total sense to me. Yes.
Yeah. And I could see why this is a benefit. And I could use the flu shot as an example. You could get a flu shot for what they think is going to be the most common flu strain that year.
Yeah.
And it does nothing, but this literally can eradicate, if you target that specific galactin-3 from even entering your cell or even getting you sick.
Yeah, E-Rock, we did in vitro testing on influenza and RSV.
Yes, you did mention that. So, I mean,
excited about that.
It's insane. I mean, like well, I know you can't say cure, all right? And by the way, none of this is financial advice. There was a disclaimer in the beginning. But it's really remarkable. And, I think you guys are onto something here, and it's talking about the prolactin M, and I don't think we're going to have enough time to get to BXT 25. I think that is going to be a whole nother episode in and of itself, because that BXT 25 is huge. When I read about that, I mean, and the oxygen, basically solving oxygen suppression and all that stuff, it's really mind blowing. But I want to stay on prolactin because this is huge. And this is, I want to stick to the most recent S1 PR. But how can it reduce outbreaks and transmission and infection rates and reduce impact on economies by limiting the spread of new mutant virus outbreaks and thus reduce supply chain disruptions worldwide? I mean, like, and this isn't even just like towards COVID. This is towards any disease. Like, how can this be beneficial, like on the overall grand scheme of things, the overall scale?
Okay. So, as a company, what do we do? Are we a COVID company? No, we're not a COVID company. We're an upper respiratory tract infection company. So the idea is you come in with an upper respiratory tract infection, and then what happens? They don't test you. Do you have RSV? Do you have COVID? Do you have no? Here, take this, go home. And that's the idea. So, but what's happening is, remember what I told you, is it takes 9 days for a COVID patient to become PCR negative. What are you doing in those 9 days? You are spreading that disease. So what happens when if we can reduce that 9 days to 3 days? What if we can do that? That's going to stop a lot of That's going to counter the virus's increased contagiousness that keeps happening. Like it keeps getting more and more contagious. This is the ideal, in my opinion, the ideal way to curb that contagiousness. So if we can curb that R naught and that contagiousness, what happens? We actually have a shot at like stopping the spread of the infection. There's something called R naught. Have you heard of that? You remember?
No.
R? Yeah. So it's how many times how many one person it infects how many other people. That's called the R naught. That's layman's definition.
Epidemiology.
What?
Epidemiology.
No, that's not what it is. It's how many. It's how infectious is this thing? How contagious is this thing? So it's a measure of contagion. So, because that's what you're talking about. So if we stop this early, guess what happens? What the real impact is? The real impact is if we stop this so soon, so you don't develop symptoms. And we found this out, we're going to hopefully find this in our next clinical trial. Well, what's the incidence of long COVID? If you never get to the symptomatic stage, what's your chance of getting long COVID? Right now, it's roughly 1 in 5. I'm spitballing there. But if you can reduce the incidence of long COVID, you know what impact it's going to have? I think a lot of our labor shortage issues can be traced back to long COVID. So if something like this comes out, I think it's great for the whole world economy. I mean, do you see from the economic side of it? Because look at what you're doing. This one thing, if you can get people to take this, and imagine this. I mean, this is a hypothetical, but imagine this: you get COVID, and this is not something that we're going to do. A partner would do this, but you get COVID, and then you go home. And then what else? You bring home some dosage for your family. I mean, they're doing studies like this in influenza right now. What happens if we give this to them where it acts as a prophylactic? We're not doing. I just want to be clear. We are not doing any prophylactic studies. We're just kind of hypothetically talking about this stuff. But that's a really interesting thing. Imagine what we could do to this disease if it's got nowhere to hide. Imagine and look at the impact it could have. It's pretty big stuff.
Yeah, it sounds like a solution to me. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that recap. You're going to want to tune in next week as I'm going to have Ticker MLRT CEO Patrick Bertagna on to answer your questions live, because that's what we do here at the BFC. We have live Q&A, so you guys could ask your questions. We get our DD from the source. So that's all I got. Stay well out there, all you bulls and bears. And remember, there's more that binds us than breaks us. Peace out.